And welcome to the Howard Eskin Show. Uh, as this is live on Wednesday nights at 7:30, and I when I confirmed my guest tonight, I was excited because I think about some really, really, really great memories. Uh, the coach of the Eagles' first Super Bowl, Doug Pederson, is with us, and so many memories of his time here and the Super Bowl and just different things. And his time as a quarterback, not only with the Eagles, he was a part of history with another team while he was playing quarterback. We'll get into all that stuff. Uh, and we're going to talk about a lot of things after Doug Pederson because I want to get into some different things about obviously the Phillies. The Eagles' first game is coming up on Thursday. But before we get into that, I want to thank, as I always do, a really sharp guy, Stillwell Financial Advisors, and that's Jeff Stillwell. He is, if you have wealth to invest or some kind of questions or money or whatever it is, Jeff Stillwell is a great guy, and I've talked to him obviously multiple times, and he's educated me on a lot, and he can do the same for you. So if you have interest, and I don't know why you wouldn't, to build for your future, there's his number, 732-343-0813. The presenting sponsor of the Howard Eskin Show, Stillwell Financial Advisors, and a really, really a sharp guy. And there are other people that are a big part of this show, and they're always important too. The Phillies lost the final game. We'll get into that later. And their series against Baltimore. I still don't like their lineup, but we'll talk about that later. But I want to talk about our other sponsors, really important people to the program. And the first would be Audi Westchester. And right now at Audi Westchester, a new, really good program. Lease a new 2025 Audi Q6 e-tron, $499 a month, or an Audi Q4 e-tron for $399 a month. All you'll need is $5,295 down for the Q6 and $4,156 down for the Q4 plus taxes and registration fees. Stop by Audi Westchester for more details. It's a beautiful showroom, fun people. Grab a cup of coffee. And on the electric cars, just let me make you aware, and it's not going to last long. There are tax credits on all electric cars. So the special offer won't last long. Lease a new 2025 Audi Q6 e-tron for $499 a month or an Audi Q4 e-tron for $399 a month. Check it out, AudiWestchester.com. 1421 Wilmington Pike. Get there and you will. It's fun shopping for a car, so you'll have some fun. All right. And you made it too long. We're already kind of towards the middle of August when we do this show. You wanted your backyard, you wanted a pool, you wanted to do, and you waited. You can still call Piazza Property Pros. You might get a little bit in for the summer. If you look at the way and what they've done with their pools, beautiful. And not just that, with 25 years of experience, they specialize in turning your property into something that you're going to have fun with and not just say, well, I got a pool. Well, there's so many other things: excavation, hardscaping, fencing, landscaping, pool maintenance. You've got it all. You can trust Piazza Property Pros. They don't subcontract. 25 years of experience without subcontracting. That's important. They'll work within your budget. The number to call, 610-566-2608. That's 610-566-2608. Or check them out, piazzaoutdoor.com. All right. It is, I'm telling you, when Doug Pederson said he was available to come on the show, I was excited. Great guy. I thought he did a very good job with the Eagles, a great job with the Eagles. Thinking about that, in his second year, he was a Super Bowl champion. That doesn't happen very often. In your second, even Andy Reid didn't do that. Let me welcome Doug Pederson to the program. And Doug, it's really, it's really special for me. And I've covered sports for a long, long time. Uh, and the moments that you brought to Philadelphia people, when I posted this, that you were going to be on the show, I got a lot of comments from people. Oh, great. Doug Pederson, great. So even though coaches are hired to be fired, and we all know that, that's a part of it. But to win a Super Bowl in your second year is amazing. And how do you go from a 7-9 season? First of all, congratulations, and you still deserve congratulations. How do you go from a 7-9 season to a 13-3 season?
Well, first of all, Howard, thank you for having me, and it's an honor to be on your show, and look forward to visiting with you here for the next few minutes. But um, it is pretty spectacular to go, and there's a lot of history with teams around the league that have down years one year, and they rebound and make the postseason or something like that the second year. But for us to go, all the way, and to do it with a backup quarterback late in the season and win a championship is pretty remarkable. I think one of the biggest keys for us was, number one, Carson Wentz was going into his second year. I still had Frank Reich and John DeFilippo as quarterback coach and
Mhm.
offensive coordinator, and so there was a lot of stability that we just had continuity, and really too. I look at some of the free agents that Howie brought to the team, and really we improved the roster a little bit that year. That really, and we got some guys that knew how to win. I mean, LeGarrette Blunt comes to mind. He's
Yes.
just won a Super Bowl. With the Patriots, and Chris Long. I mean, there were just guys that knew how to win. And we get Jay Ajayi in the middle of the season, and you think about some of these guys that helped us, and I think too, we had a good locker room. We had a really good locker room. We had a close group of guys. The coaching staff was on the same page, and
Yep.
really too. I mean, did we stay away from the injury bug? No. I mean, we lost some, like, 5 of our top starters that year. If you
Yes.
remember, I mean, Jason Peters goes down, Darren Sproles goes down, Chris Maragos goes down, Jordan Hicks goes down, and Carson Wentz. I mean, those are 5 key components to the offense and defense and leaders of your football team. But I just think the camaraderie of that team, that locker room, the uniqueness that we had, and the belief that the guys had as the season went, we kept winning games, even all the way through Carson Wentz and his injury out in LA. I believe in it's probably like week 13 or something like that. The guys didn't lose hope. They didn't think that the season was over. I mean, more guys stood up. I think of Malcolm Jenkins. I think of him and his leadership late in the season, and really all season long. Rodney McLeod, guys like that really stepped up and kept that team together, and nobody batted an eye. Zach Ertz on offense. I mean, Nick Foles steps in and just ran the offense the way it was supposed to run, and kept things going. So we had a little luck on our side, but at the same time, I felt like we had a really good locker room.
You know what you mentioned? There's 2 things from what you just said that were really good things. Number one, how many teams in today's NFL can lose a quarterback and then go on and win a Super Bowl? I mean, the Patriots did it because Bledsoe was the quarterback, and then Tom Brady came in. It was Tom Brady. But the other thing you mentioned, and I've said this continually, the chemistry in that locker room is as good. And I've covered a lot of Eagles teams, and there's some good players on all teams. The chemistry in that locker room was the best I've ever encountered in a locker room for football. And football is where you really need it. That was, and you mentioned, the camaraderie, and it was unbelievable. The fact that you had a lot of veterans, and maybe that was a part of it. Why do you think the chemistry was so good in that locker? I think it was the best.
You're absolutely right, Howard. And I go back to my days when I played in Green Bay, and we won a championship, Super Bowl 31, and then went to 32. We lost in 32 the second year, but I just think of those locker rooms, just guys that got along, the great leadership. There were no egos. I think that's the biggest thing. There were no egos. They enjoyed coming to work every day. They put in the time. They put in the extra time that it takes to be successful. and they really rallied around. It didn't matter if the offense struggled, the defense was going to pull us out, or vice versa. And special teams was a big part of that as well. And I just think that just the closeness as the season goes. Now, look, it's it doesn't. You try to start building it obviously in training camp, and that's why you go to camp and start building who you're going to be. Well, who are the leaders? What's the identity of your football team? And I still think even in September, you're not a finished product by no means. It's late in December, it's early in January. Those are the times when when the games really matter.
Yep.
That you figure out who your football team is, and I just think we had really good character guys that believed in one another, pulled for one another, believed in what we were coaching them, offense and defense, and just made a nice little run, really backed up Nick Foles, and because you remember Nick had a great game against the Giants, which was his first game to start.
Right.
I think he threw 3 touchdown passes in that game, but then we play the Raiders on Christmas night. It was a Monday night game in Philly, and we kind of struggled a little bit. We ended up winning that game, but we struggled. And then there was all the commentary around it that's saying, "Oh boy, this might be the worst 13-3 team that made the postseason, and they're going to be one and done." And you listen to all that stuff, and I look back now, and obviously maybe that was the case, but nobody believed that stuff in that locker room. We didn't listen to the media. We didn't pay attention to what the outside folks were saying, but at the same time, it's hard not to, because it's obviously you're playing and working in Philly, and you're going to hear about it. But the guys just pushed that aside and just came to work every day. Brent Selleck, I think of Brent Selleck. I mean, here's a guy that, had been there, I think at that time, like 11 years. And he had an opportunity to go win a championship. And so the motivation there and the leadership from Brent was spectacular. And my hat's off to all those guys, because it was a great locker room.
Yeah, it was. You mentioned that Christmas night game, and that brings memories to me. And I kid Torrey Smith about it. It was the first or second offensive play to the Eagles sideline. Torrey Smith was tackled way out of bounds. I was out of the way. Because when I look back at the film, the NFL Films film, I was way past that white stripe, and he leg whipped me. I went down. You're laughing. I don't know if you remember that. He leg whipped me. I went down. I kind of blacked out for a split second. I just thought, well, okay. But I didn't go down hard. Came up, composed myself. About halftime, I asked one of the doctors, "Can you get me a sleeve?" I thought it was a bruise.
Yeah.
So then I couldn't even get to my car after the game because I couldn't walk. So anyway, 10 days later, I was in such pain. 10 days later, I asked one of the docs who worked at the Sixers. I said, I'd say Chris. People know, you'll know who it is. I'll say, "Chris, I'm telling you, there's no bruise, and there's something wrong with my leg." So I pointed to where it is. He says, "That's fibula point." I didn't know I had a name for
What
it.
is that?
It was right below my knee. So I went in and got an x-ray, and my bone was cracked all the way through. It wasn't displaced. So I didn't have to have surgery. I should have worn a boot. I said, "I can't wear a boot because they won't let me on the sidelines." I was the sideline reporter. So I worked the rest of the season, including the Super Bowl, with a broken leg. It healed about 9 weeks later. So it was. And Minnesota, I didn't go outside because it was so cold out there.
It was so cold.
It was so cold. And that makes your bones hurt worse.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
I'll never. And Torrey Smith is a great guy. Great guy. We kid about that all the time. I'm going to get hit on the show too. But that Super Bowl, you lose your quarterback. How many people? And that doesn't happen where you lose your quarterback and then you win. How many people still come up to you, and when they see you, and they in some way connected with Philadelphia, and say, "Tug, I really loved that Super Bowl." You get a lot of that.
You get a lot of it, especially here, even in South Florida. There's a lot of folks from the Northeast and really the Pennsylvania, Philadelphia area, New Jersey area, and there's a bunch of Eagles fans here, and And so we run into them all the time. My wife and I do. And even if we're traveling out of the, West Palm Beach airport, things like that. And that's the one thing. In fact, I was on a flight coming back here to West Palm, and a gentleman who was sitting behind me was going crazy. He was kind of almost losing his mind because he recognized me, and he tells me, he goes, I watched the Philly special play at least 5 times a week. He goes, it's the greatest play in Super Bowl history. And he went on and on and on about this whole thing. But that's what they talk about. They talk about the Philly special, and they talk about obviously Nick Foles, the backup quarterback, and what we did and all of that, and just how special that was. And it's just brings back great memories, and especially for those folks too that I run into, who I meet, that are Eagles fans, and they remember that Super Bowl, where they were, with their family and friends, whatever it might be. And to me, that's what's special about, especially the first one, right? You go 51 years of the Super Bowl era. Now you're into Super Bowl 52, and you win the first one. And, just hearing the stories of the families and where they were and how they celebrated is a special moment.
All right. So now let's get into that moment, because I'm standing there. I can't hear what's going on. I'm not that far behind you, but because I'm trying to get an idea what's going on. Nick comes over to the sidelines, and obviously the conversation is about Philly. And you say, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
So there wasn't much discussion there from what I remember. Kind of relived that moment with you and Nick Foles.
Yeah. So if you go back to play before, obviously 2 plays, we take the ball down right before half. We get it inside the 5. I think we run it on the next play, get it down. I called a play, and I could tell as soon as we broke the huddle, guys were like not sure of where to go. I saw Alshon Jeffrey kind of start to the right when he was supposed to be on the left, and this and that. I look at the play clock, and it's winding down. So if you remember, I run down and I take the timeout, right? And it's fourth, it's 4th down. So I take the timeout. So okay, he's come to his senses. He's going to kick the field goal, go into the locker room with 3 more points, this and that. Well, Nick comes over, and in the meantime now, as I'm walking back to the sideline, I'm looking at my call sheet at the 4th down plays that are inside the 5-yard line that could potentially, they had to score. We had to get in the end zone, right? So I'm looking at all these 4th downs. I'm looking at my sheet like this. I'm looking at the +5, the red zone, and the 2-point plays. And I'm like, I just can't find a play that I feel really comfortable about. And then here comes Nick, and he suggested, Philly, which is the Philly special. And it just kind of hit me like, oh yeah, that's the one in my brain. It's like, that's the one. And I said, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, probably out of my mind, but just at that moment, like, what a great, and again, this is Howard, it goes back to the camaraderie and the unity of our football team and the confidence that the guys had in one another, and really the confidence they had in us as coaches, because, we did a lot of things that year were first times, particularly the 4th down stuff, the 2-point conversion stuff. And we were kind of ahead of the curve a little bit, that now has kind of set the trend in the National Football League. So our guys had a lot of confidence in their ability to execute these plays. And when he suggested that play, it was like, in a way, it was kind of like a no-brainer for me. Like, that's the perfect play. Now, it was never on my 4th down menu. It was never in my +5 red zone menu. It was more in the gadget, kind of a trick play somewhere in the field, this, that, and the whole thing. 1st down, 2nd down, whatever. And it's interesting because I had my headset off, so none of the other coaches could hear our conversation. Plus, it was loud in the stadium, as you remember. So it was really just Nick and I having this dialogue. And then I clicked my mic back on. I called the personnel. I never said what the play was. Nick knew the play. I just called the personnel so we could get the right guys on the field. Nick went back to the huddle, called the play, and then executed that play. But as he was breaking the huddle, guys like Frank and, you saw that picture. Deuce Staley was over my.
I saw Deuce on one of the pieces of video. Zook was shaking his head. Was he shaking his head like, don't do the play?
No, because he didn't hear it. He didn't hear it until after Nick was in the huddle and breaking the huddle. And then LeGarrette Blount, I'll never forget, LeGarrette Blount was standing over my shoulder, and he kind of whispers, he's like, "Hey, coach, what play?" And I go, "Philly special." And he just started going nuts. He was like, "Oh my gosh, Philly special," the whole thing. And then, of course, the rest is history after that.
Well, you know what, Merrill Reese, I listen to the broadcast, and Merrill and Mike are debating it, and Merrill says, "Mike, I think they should go for the field goal." And then I called up to the producer, Joe McPeak. I says, "Joe, tell Merrill they're not going for the field goal." I don't know what they're doing, but they're not going for the field
Not
goal.
going for that. No.
Okay, so there's some background to that story. From what I understand, you practiced that play before the Minnesota game.
Yes.
But you didn't practice it on the field for that game because you were afraid of Bill Belichick maybe seeing what's going on. But I understand. And then you did a walkthrough in the ballroom the night before. Explain why you didn't practice it that week and what went into all that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We put it in for the NFC Championship game. And of course, that game, we didn't need it. So I told Frank the next week going into the Super Bowl prep, we had 2 weeks, obviously, before the game. I said, let's keep this play in. We're going to keep it in. Let's keep working it. We worked it all week in Philadelphia. And then, but when we got to Minnesota and practiced that week, we were at the University of Minnesota in their indoor. So you have so much. There's so many media. If you remember, on the sideline, there's national media, there's local Minnesota media. There's a bunch of different people that I don't really know. Mm-hmm. And I said, let's not practice this play live on the field. I don't want anything to get out. So we did practice it a few times in the ballroom at the hotel. And it was really just walking through it. You couldn't do a full speed. You didn't have the full field, none of that. And we just walked through it a couple times at the hotel. But again, we had been rehearsing it the whole time. So the guys knew the play and then when we finally got to the game and had an opportunity to call it, I mean, it was probably one of the most well executed plays that ever, and especially in that moment.
It's the greatest play that I can think of in Eagles history, and you're memorialized at the stadium, which obviously you knew about. And I happened to be there yesterday. I says, let me take a picture. There's Doug, there's you, and Nick Foles and the statues right outside, it's near the ticket office there, right outside the stadium. It is, you'll live forever in the minds of Philadelphia Eagle people, and you'll stand there forever in the minds of Philadelphia. If they move the stadium, and there's ridiculous talk about that, if they have it, that's got to go. Underneath it says you want Philly. It's great.
Philly. It's great.
It's great.
It's a great place for the pigeons to land.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I didn't see any bird crap on, and if it was there, I would have cleaned it off because.
Thank you.
I don't know. There's a lot of people that crapped on your shoulder anyway, but
it's all right.
Not there. So let's go. There's a couple of things that I want to touch on too. That play will live forever. It's the greatest, and I'm getting a lot of comments here during the show, Doug. People have chills just hearing you talk about it. It just, and then when you think about it, I bet you there's people after we're done the show that go on YouTube and pull it up just to look at that play again. And it was executed perfectly. Yeah. That's the amazing thing. Because in practice, I don't think it was executed perfectly.
The first couple times, the week of Minnesota, the first couple times we practiced it, it looked like garbage. It was like almost to the point I was going to throw it out because we couldn't, Trey Burton couldn't complete the pass. I mean, he just couldn't throw the ball. He'd throw it over his head. He'd throw it in the ground. He'd throw it out of bounds. I'm like, oh, gee, but we just kept working it. And I've gone back and watched the live broadcast with Chris Collinsworth and him talking about that play, just you could hear like the anxiety in his voice, like what is he thinking? What is he doing? Why is he doing this right now? Type of a thing. And then when the play is ended, it's like he's beside himself, and it's pretty incredible when you think about it on that stage, biggest moment. But again, Howard, it's the way our team was built all season long, and I'll never forget. I read it. I actually read an article. It was the second. It was 2 weeks before the Super Bowl, so we were still in Philly, and I believe it was an article out of Boston that the headline was, "Will Coach Pederson," something like, "Will Coach Pederson be as bold in the Super Bowl as he was during the regular season?" Something along those lines, right?
Mhm.
Like rookie coach, being in the Super Bowl, biggest stage, and it really kind of, in a way, it kind of fired me up just a little bit. Like, this is more about the players than it is about me. If I make the call, then the players have to execute it. But see, sometimes people forget that all season we've been doing this stuff all season, and so it was ingrained in our players. Like, they wanted to go for fourth downs, they wanted to go for 2-point conversions. I had to sometimes hold the players back, just to say, no, let's kick the extra point here. Let's take the points. We're up by 10 or whatever it might be, and let's keep rolling along. But I just felt like the confidence in the players to pull off plays like that, again, was just something that just had so much confidence in them, and they had confidence in themselves to make plays like that.
And they executed it perfectly. And what
It was
the
beautiful.
other part, the other part in that game that was great is it was a similar play. It wasn't the same play because it was in the middle of the field when they tried to throw it to Brady, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it wasn't successful.
Yeah.
So, all right. So in the game, excluding Philly special, you obviously think about this every once in a while. You might be having a bad hole on the golf course and you start thinking about something else after a double bogey, whatever it may. I know you don't get any double bogeys. But, yeah. Is there another play that comes to your mind that said, this was so important, or this was it? What other play do you think about from that Super Bowl?
I think there's one other play that's probably more of a game changer than the Philly special. And the Philly special is a great play, but the Patriots just went down and took the lead like 33-31, something like that. And we get the ball back, and we're at like our own 35-yard line. If you remember, it was 4th and 1. It was 4th and 1. And we're at our own 35-yard line, and I elect to go for it on 4th and 1 to stay on the field. And we threw a pass to Zach Ertz.
Yep.
We gained 2 yards. We literally gained 2 yards, but hey, 2 yards is more than 1, so it's a first down. Let's go. So we go down, and then if you remember, we get into the red zone. I think it's 3rd and 6 or 3rd and 7, and we line up Zach Ertz. He's the single receiver to the left. We take 3 receivers to our right in a bunch formation, and then we motion the back out of the backfield towards the bunch, so it creates an empty formation. And basically had a single receiver slant with Zach Ertz, big tight end, athletic, runs great routes. Him and Nick on the same page. And if you remember, that's the one that he dives into the end zone.
Yep.
And we end up taking the lead, like 38-33 at that point. But those 2 plays right there on the same drive, to me, really won us that football game because of the nature of where it was in the game, right? It was in the 4th quarter with I think the first one was about 6 minutes to go in the game, and then as the ball goes down. And then, obviously the Patriots get the ball back, and we get Brandon Graham gets the strip sack. Derek Barnett, who's a rookie, I mean, he gets the scoop and score, and then we kick a field goal and to go up 41-33 to really ice it. We go up 8 at that point. And so the whole sequence of plays right there towards the end of the game. But that 4th down play to me was very pivotal in us winning that game.
All right, let's talk about coaching. In today's world, and it's prevalent throughout sports, coaches used to be really honest. Now, honest without burying a player, honest without burying a specific player. I told Andy when I had Andy Reid on, he yelled at me one time because people blamed him for time management when he called a timeout, and LJ Smith was lined up on the wrong side, so he had to call a timeout because Donovan couldn't get him over to the right in the right formation. So and I mentioned that on the air, and he yelled at me, "Why did you say that?" I said, "Because that's what happened, and people are calling me complaining that you don't have any time management. I'm just explaining what happened."
Yeah.
So and I know he doesn't like it. Why do you think coaches aren't more honest in talking to the media as the head coaches?
I think the biggest reason, one, you never as a coach, you never want to throw anybody under the bus. You always want to put everything on my shoulders, right? As the head coach, I'm gonna take everything. I'm gonna put it on me. Let me handle it. I don't ever want to be so honest to the point where, now it's throwing shade at a player or another coach on the team, the GM, the owner, whoever. I never want to do that. And I think coaches have that presence of mind to say, hey, I'm not ever going to do that with the team. Let me handle. And these are things too. We have conversations with our football team, and the guys know that I'm going to have their back when it comes to the media. I'm never going to throw them under a bus. And I would expect the same, from them to do the same thing. And so I think that's probably the biggest reason. And then two, not everybody's going to agree with honesty either. I mean, whether you say something that's transparent and honest, somebody's going to disagree with that. But it's like, well, no, that's exactly what happened. Just like you're explaining with that play, this is what happened. Well, somebody's going to find an argument there, and so it's easier just not to say enough or to keep it very small than to elaborate and go into these big honest answers.
All right. So now I'm going to bring up a moment. I don't know if you remember it. It was your first season. It was a game against Cincinnati, and you're there in the news conference, and I'm
Awful game.
What's that? You got
Awful
smoked.
Game.
Terrible. So guys quit. I mean, players don't use that term. Coaches don't use that term. I can say it without using that in a question. And I remember it's towards the end of the news conference, your Monday news conference, and earlier somebody had asked you about players playing hard. And you said, yeah, everybody played hard. And I couldn't take it. In my mind, I watched that game and they quit. I mean, that the guys just waltzed into the end zone on certain plays. So I asked the question, Doug, can you honestly tell me that your players played hard the entire game? And you paused and you answered the question honestly. No, I can tell you not everybody played hard. I didn't use the word quit the entire game. Do you remember that at all? Because there's a backstory. Okay. The backstory to that is I got skewered by people upstairs, and then the PR guy, he got reamed out. Why did he have to ask a question? What's he doing? I have another job besides being on the sideline. I'm on the air. Yeah. So I got buried. I was buried by some front office people. And it wasn't Howie, but I don't know that Howie was mad or not mad. But I won't say who it was. So then I dealt with it. And then John Lynch was working for Fox that Sunday. And then in the production meeting, you guys, coaches talk with the announcers. And before we went on the air for the pregame show on Fox in Philadelphia, I said to John, did Doug bring up anything in the production meeting? And he says, yeah. He said, your question, he was happy you asked the question. Do you ever remember that John Lynch told me that? I guess you wanted to get it out there because other players were happy too. Because if they play their ass off and somebody's not giving all their best, but you told John Lynch, I'm happy that Howard asked that question.
Yeah, exactly right, Howard, because sometimes I can have conversations with the football team, right? I can have stern conversations with the football team and say, hey, guys, on Monday or Tuesday, whenever we get together to watch the game, it's like, I'm disappointed in the effort of our football team. Not everybody, but some of us in this room didn't get full effort. You can have those conversations with your team in private. You never want to necessarily do that publicly, but sometimes I think coaches will throw out those messages to get to your football team, and the players read the comments, the players see what's going on, and it obviously in Philly, you say something like that, it's a small little firestorm that you just kind of created, right, for about 7 days. But I think sometimes coaches will do that to send a message to their football team as well. You don't do it all the time, and you're going to protect them as much as you can, but you also have to send that message. And it's not like you're not embarrassing a guy, or, I mean, this is all of our jobs are on the line, right? I mean, we're all coaching and playing for our jobs. So I need maximum effort from my coaches, from me, from everybody in order for us to win a football game. And sometimes I'd rather give all in effort and come up short than to come up short and you quit in the fourth quarter. I just think you have to sometimes maybe send a little subliminal message through the media to your team, because then you can take that and probably go into the locker room and ask, specific people these questions, and you might get even a better answer, and I've always felt like, and this probably is more of the former player in me, let the locker room control the locker room. Let the players control the locker room. It's not about me controlling the locker room, let them do it. And they know when a player is not giving max effort. Let them handle it, and it does. Then that way too, it takes it off of my plate, and the locker room can become stronger that way.
Who knows whether that was the first year, and the next year you win the Super Bowl. I mean, who knows? And nobody knows whether that helped when players understand, hey, listen, we can't quit because, and I use the word quit, and I know a coach won't use the word quit. We've got to play hard, because otherwise it's not the coach, it's not the public, it's our teammates. And maybe that helped in a message with the players that were still there. I have no idea. But the next year you win a Super Bowl.
It could definitely resonate. Yeah, it could definitely resonate with the guys, and players don't want to be embarrassed. They don't want to be embarrassed, especially in front of their peers, and so it takes something like that every once in a while for the light bulb to come on, and obviously the second year, I mean, gosh, it was pretty
what, when you think about coaches, and coaches are hired to be fired, it's a cliche, but it's the truth. And even Andy Reid, who I think is the best coach in football, I mean, he's really, you worked under him. He's the best coach in football, but they're hired to be fired. It happened to you now twice. You still want to coach football, right? You still want to go out there and.
Yeah, I love the game. I love the game. I love playing it. I love coaching it. I think that's the number one thing for me, is just being with the team, being with the players, mixing it up with them, and showing that you can lead a football team, and you get the most out of the guys. I think about even what we did in Jacksonville up until that last year. But in Jacksonville, we did a lot of firsts in those first 2 years. I mean, we were back-to-back winning seasons. We postseason the first year. If we beat Tennessee in week 17, 18 there, we go to the postseason in week 2, or in season 2. And then we just had some injuries in week 3, in year 3. And it was just probably the demise of all that. But, we did some good things there. And, that was something that was pretty special too, but you still have the fire, you still have the desire. You still want to be connected to the game. You love the game so much that you want to do everything you can to obviously be around it for a long time.
And that happens. I mean, it happens. It's just, it really comes down to the players most of the time, but you can't dime out the players. You just got to accept responsibility. There was a moment in history that you were a part of at the Vet, and you weren't a Philadelphia Eagle. And you remember it, right? Don Shula's
Yeah.
record-breaking win as a head coach when he got, I guess, the most wins in football. You were the starting quarterback for Miami. Do you? And that was at the Vet, just by coincidence. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yeah. It was November 13th. I was actually the backup quarterback.
Oh,
Scott
okay.
Mitchell was the starter that day. And we were getting beat at halftime 14-13. And the reason it was 14-13 is because I muffed an extra point. I was the holder and I muffed an extra point. And so we missed the extra point, or otherwise it would have been 14-14 at halftime. So we come out in the third quarter, we get the ball. Scott gets hurt on the second down play. He's lefty, so he lands on his left shoulder. He has a little AC separation in there, and so he's done for the game. So now I go in, and we end up making 2 drives in the second half. We kick field goals at the end of both drives, and we end up winning 19-14 in the Vet. And very similar situation. We had a really good football team. We had great leaders on that team. We had players that played unselfishly. I only threw the ball 6 times in the entire second half. Terry Kirby ran for over 200 yards in the game. Defense played lights out, and we ended up winning 19-14. And that was the win that gave Don Shula 325 career wins for the all-time winningest NFL coach in history at the time. So, yeah, that's a pretty special milestone right there as well.
You know what?
For me as a player.
I'm going to finish this up here, but because you won with a backup quarterback winning a Super Bowl, Nick Foles, the moment. You had the best quarterback in the league that year in Carson Wentz, and I don't know, for whatever reason, he just couldn't continue that. And my first question is, because the quarterback's so important, just so happens you won a Super Bowl without him. What happened to Carson Wentz? Do you know what happened to Carson Wentz?
I don't. Obviously the injuries, the back injury, and some of the things that he had could have played a big part into that. I think it's hard too when you're drafted where he was drafted. There's a lot of pressure put on these young players, these young kids, and he was having an MVP season. I mean, we all know that, it's well documented, and then he can't finish that season, and the team goes on to win a championship. I think sometimes that might be one of the harder things to really overcome, as a player, and that's tough. That is hard because you're supposed to be that guy. You're supposed to be that guy that wins that championship. And Carson was on the sideline during the Super Bowl, and he was encouraging. He was coaching up Nick. He was doing a great job, and he saw all that, and he went through all that. And he witnessed all that, and and it just, I don't know. I think sometimes maybe that's a hard thing to overcome, and especially, I think too, especially in a sports town like Philadelphia.
Quarterbacks are probably one of the most difficult players to evaluate coming out of college, coming into the draft. Your quarterback at Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence, very highly touted quarterback, but your last year, obviously just, what happens to a quarterback when he comes into the NFL? What changes for him when he was so good in college? And then all of a sudden in the NFL, there's times that he just doesn't do the same things he used to do in college.
Well, and again, Trevor, a first pick, Jacksonville Jaguars, the whole thing. There's so much, and he was a junior. It was after his junior year, so he came out early. There is so much stinking pressure on these guys right away to win, and some of that is right. I mean, it's expected. And then some of that is like, let's let this kid develop a little bit. Let's let him get into, the league. Let's let him figure this thing out just a little bit. And then, of course, you look at Jacksonville too. And again, in defense of Trevor, he's gone through a couple of head coaches now, some coordinators now, and he's going into year 5 that it's just, it's hard. Yeah. It's flat out hard, and the expectation level, and he's wanting to do things extremely well. He's wanting to win games. And listen, he's a great kid. He studies the game. He's very athletic, got a great arm, good kid in the locker room. Now for him, it's just, okay, he's got to learn a new offense again this year going forward. And I don't like hearing the comments about, a make or break season, because look, he's having to deal with a new offense, and there's so many nuances with the new offense playing quarterback that everybody doesn't understand, and the coaches are going to go through that. And as long as he leads that football team, as long as he stays healthy and embraces that, Trevor's going to be fine and should have a
Well,
should have a
Doug,
good year.
I've always appreciated you, you and your family, you as a person, your family, and I like it. When I was down there all the time, and just to get to know people as people. It's not you're not just a head coach. You're a person, and we talk about other things, and that's what I always like to do with people. And I just that moment, and for you tonight on the show, and I don't wear it all the time. I wore, thanks to you, I got the Super
I
Bowl,
saw that.
and
Yeah.
I got the cufflinks. I got
There
the
you go.
cufflinks.
Yeah. Nice.
So, but
Nice.
I had to do it. I had to do it.
Yeah.
I just
Oh,
because everything
I love it.
feels so good, and I appreciate your time. I know it went longer than I just could talk about you and
I
football and
know.
things that happen and careers, and it was just it's so nice, Doug, and I really do appreciate your time, and hopefully we can do it again. And good luck. And if
Certainly.
you're in the area, let me know, and
Thank you.
we'll get together. But I loved it. I loved it, and I had a lot of fun. And when I do these shows, I always have a lot of fun. And you were fun tonight. It brought back a lot of great memories and a lot of fun. Thanks.
Yep. Yep. Thank you, Howard. Thanks for having me on. And we're in a people business. It's a relationship business, and it's you get some great stories along the way, and you meet some great people, and you're one of them. So you've always been good to me and my family, and I really appreciate that, and appreciate it. And
All
thank you so
right.
much for having me.
Thanks, Doug. There you go.
Right here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Doug Pederson.
Yes,
Thanks.
sir. Thank you.
It's fun to talk to people like that. And people know that by watching, these shows. I have fun talking to these people. It's just, hey, sometimes there's some serious things you talk about. Yeah, you got to have fun. If you're not having fun, you're not trying hard enough. All right. There's some things we want to take care of. I'm going to have a question from something that Doug said. And so you can win a pair of Oakley sunglasses. You heard the conversation. You can go back and listen to it if you didn't hear what the question I'm going to ask, and I'm going to ask it at the end. Submit your answer by tonight's Wednesday, by Friday night at midnight, August 8th. Is that Friday night? Yeah, I guess it's Friday night. I don't even know the dates anymore. Saturday, I will announce the winner of the Oakley sunglasses. We're live on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and you will always be notified when the shows come on live, and they're always there. If you subscribe to YouTube, you'll be notified when the shows come on live. And for the people that have the correct answer to the question that I'm going to throw at you, we'll choose somebody from random. Now, let me tell you about the winner we had from the last show. And I think he won a Chickies and Pete's gift certificate. I forgot what the question was, but he got it right. Whatever the question was, Nick, you got it right, and you win a gift certificate from Chickies and Pete's. So many locations. You'll have fun there. You'll enjoy the food. Thanks to Pete for being kind enough to give us the gift certificates to give you on the air. And I always say that Oakley's been nice to me, Pete's been nice to me, and thank you very much. And let me tell you that this show, it would be here, but it wouldn't be at the same fine level without our presenting sponsor. And our presenting sponsor is Stillwell Financial Advisors. They know their stuff, boy. You want to, investments are important for the future and anybody's future. And Jeff really knows a lot, has some great ideas, great knowledge, not just ideas, but knowledge. Knowledge is important. Knowledge is key, and he's a great guy. Give Jeff a call, 732-343-0813, 732-343-0813. And Jeff will definitely, absolutely, positively help you out. And then our some of our other sponsors that are important to the show. Jeff, I love all our sponsors. Let's put it that way. I love all our sponsors. All right, before we get to tell you about Audi Westchester, I'm going to deal. Let me deal with one thing right now. Devontae Smith, after practice, talked about catching the ball. All right, I want to play something, and Devontae Smith is a great guy and a hell of a receiver, no questions, hands down. But I want you to listen to this comment by Devontae Smith, and there's something that is the mentality of players nowadays, which I don't think is right. Let's listen to Devontae Smith.
We're big on, you got to make the contested catch no matter what. That's how you get paid the big bucks. When you're covered and you can make those catches, that's how you get paid. So, it's big on the contested catch, but also for the defense.
All right, contested catches are important. However, why do you bring up money? Making contested catches, it doesn't. He makes a point, well, that gets you the money. No, it helps you win the game. Isn't winning more important than the money? And people are going to say, no, the money's more important. That is the problem. It's not Devontae Smith's problem. He plays hard all the time. But the thought process of players nowadays, it annoys me a little bit that money comes into conversations rather than the game is fun. The game is about winning, and that's what it's about. And you'll get all that after that. But why does that have to be part of the conversation? It's just my thought. All right, let me tell you about Audi Westchester. They got a real special deal going on right now. 2 electric cars. And by the way, there's tax credits, and it's not going to last much longer on electric vehicles. All right, right now at Audi Westchester, you can lease an all-new 2025 Audi Q6 e-tron for $499 a month. This is a great price. Or an Audi Q4 e-tron for $399 a month. You'll need $5,295 down for the Q6 and $4,156 down for the Q4 plus taxes and registration fees. Stop by Audi Westchester for more details. New facility, great people, fun experience, coffee, snacks you can have there while you're looking at new cars. 1421 Wilmington Pike. The special offer won't last long. I'm telling you right now. Lease a new 2025 Audi Q6 e-tron, $499 a month, or an Audi Q4 e-tron for $399 a month. You know what's down. I mentioned that to you. And check it out on the website. Audi you see all the information right there on your screen. AudiWestchester.com. Check it out. AudiWestchester.com. And Piazza Property Pros. They build pools. I was going to say in the area, but probably in a lot of areas, better than anyone. Piazza Property Pros, 25 years of experience, a new in-ground pool. You can make your property just beautiful with a new pool. You may have hesitated and procrastinated this summer. Get it done so it's ready for next year, and you might have a little bit by the end of the summer. They don't just do pools. They're skilled people, 25 years of skill, 25 years. They don't subcontract. Excavation, hardscaping, fencing, landscaping, pool maintenance. You can trust Piazza Property Pros to deliver exceptional results on time and within your budget. 610-566-2608. That's 610-566-2608. Schedule a free consultation or check them out, piazzaoutdoor.com. All right, there's some things before I get to the question, so you have a chance to win a pair of Oakley sunglasses. the preseason game. We're doing this show on Wednesday night. First preseason game on Thursday. I don't know when you're going to watch this. But if they play the starters, it would be minimal time. Just get ready for that. Minimal time. Minimal time. I would be shocked, not surprised, but shocked if Jalen Hurts plays more than one series. That's it. One series. It's just, it's just, I would be shocked. So get ready for that. And Nick Sirianni knows he wouldn't say it his last news conference, but he knows who's going to play and who's not going to play. They're going to tell you after the game, well, we got a lot of work in practice. Okay, that's great. So get ready for that. All right. Sticking with the NFL. The NFL and ESPN formed a partnership. And the commissioner, Roger Goodell, who I think a lot of people don't like him. I like the guy. I know he knows what he's doing. I like the guy. However, the question he answered early in his interview today on ESPN, partnership. The NFL is getting more money from ESPN to be a part to take some of the games. And they're going, instead of 25 games on ESPN, they're going to have 28. But here's his comment. The question was, what are you excited about? And Roger Goodell's response, I'm most excited. I love this. I shouldn't laugh. I'm most excited for our fans. Why is that exciting for the fans, Roger? Because the fans are going to be paying more in their cable bills because ESPN is going to charge more in their cable bills. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of the games might at some point stream, so you have to pay extra anyway. It's just going to cost the fans more money. Why is that going to be exciting for the fans? That's bullshit. All right. And I like Roger Goodell. All right. So he goes on to say, I think this is going to make the experience even better. Broadcasting a football game. As good as some of those announcers are, and there's some good ones, people don't care who the damn announcers are. They watch it because it's a football game. What experience? What are they going to do? More trickery in the video? More cameras? Stop. Stop. And he said it. It's exciting for the fans multiple times in a 10-minute interview. It's by far ridiculous. All right, a couple other things. The Phillies win 2 out of 3 against Baltimore. I can't believe how bad the Orioles have gotten this year. They are an embarrassment. But the Phillies, I just don't like their lineup. They lost the final game of the series 5-1. I just don't like their lineup. And Bryce Harper is hitting, 265, 270? I don't think he should hit 3, but I've said that before. I'm not going to dwell on that. The best player on the team, of the everyday players, not including pitchers, best player on the team is Kyle Schwarber. I don't know what they're going to do because they're going to have issues with their contracts, especially if there's a salary cap after 2026. He's going to be $35 to $40 million a year, probably for 4 years, a year for 4 years. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what they're going to do. All right. So those are my points. Let me before I give you the question and tell you what's going to be on TV. Adam says, good point. Do the right thing and you'll be all right. Yeah. I mean, that's right. Winning brings more money. That's a good point too. YouTube. Guy said he was at the Phillies game. Terrible, so inconsistent. You have to sweep that team. They are bad. You probably should have swept that team. So I don't know what to tell you. Some of the other comments. Thanks, Roy. A great interview tonight. I had fun. The red flag went up for me when the Eagles traded Bradford to give Wentz the QB number 1 job while Wentz was running around in the woods shooting dogs. You know what? Yeah, he was a religious guy, and that's fine, but he had interests that were probably bigger than anything. The King's sporting tonight. What's that? What watch is the King sporting? Well, it's a Rolex. Yeah, I don't want to get. What did Tony must have said something stupid because somebody complained about Tony. But whatever. Saturday. All right. Here's what's going on Saturday. It's you and me on Saturday. You and me on Saturday. We're going to have some fun. I'm going to talk about the Eagles game. It's going to be backup players. 90% backup players. And the NFL, there's some. Why do you watch the NFL? And there's because it's football. I mean, I know but we're going to get into that. And who would you trade? I'm going to get into it Saturday. Who would you trade to have ability to keep Kyle Schwarber? And don't tell me Castellanos. It's just that's an easy. That's a weak answer. That doesn't get it done. Then who do you got to play right field? But Saturday it's going to be you and me. Saturday at 8:00, and we usually have fun doing that on Saturday. All right, here's the question: to try to win the sunglasses from Oakley, and I thank my boy Freddie, who helps me out with Oakley, and I have the glasses for you. Other than in the Super Bowl, when Doug Pederson was talking, we were talking back and forth. Other than the Philly special, Philly, and it was nice to hear. I knew about the backstory, but I don't know how many people heard about the backstory. They didn't even practice it that week. But other than that play, what other play was a game changer, was that he remembers, other than Philly, that he thought was the most important in that Super Bowl game? What other play? And it was a couple in the sequence of plays. What other play? And submit your entry to my website, howardeskin.com, by Friday at midnight. And people with the correct answer will choose somebody at random to win a pair of Oakley sunglasses. I appreciate everybody being here. I really do appreciate Doug Pederson being here. That's one other comment. What the hell is this comment? I want to see. He's talking about somebody on WIP. I'll say blank said even if Jalen Hurts won the Super Bowl and was MVP, it was still the worst draft pick in Eagles history. Now he kisses his ass. Blank is the guy's name. Is a nitwit and a dope. He's not the only one. RG loved the interview too. You know what? It's coaches can have fun too. And this is the kind of avenue right here on this show that we can do it. Thanks to you. Thanks to Doug Pederson. Thanks to everybody that participated in the show. Thanks to our presenting sponsor, Jeff Stillwell Financial Advisors. Great guy, so important. And thanks to Audi Westchester and Piazza Property Pros. Important to be a part of this program. And you are important to be a part of this program. And so is our producer, Joe, important to be a part of this program. Thanks. Have a great day, night, whatever it is. And Saturday, 8:00, be there. Thank you.